Hello, everybody. I'm betting that spending the next few minutes right here will be a game changer for you. As always, we're committed to helping our agents sell more real estate, and thanks for being here. You already know our speaker for this segment, but let me tell you one thing before I turn the time over to him. Ryan Kramer from our St. George office recently started spending a few days a week working from the Union Park office here in Salt Lake County. I swear it was less than a month, and from scratch, he had over a half a dozen new listings on top of his existing business. I thought we must be able to duplicate this, so I asked him, how do you do it? And are you willing to share some of those methods with our other agents? After all, who wouldn't be interested in hearing how a top producing agent routinely closes a few hundred transactions a year? Well, obviously, he said yes. So, in this recording, he's going to cover a few fundamental topics, and I'll let him tell you about those. So, thanks for being here, Ryan Kramer.
You're welcome. Well, good morning. Thanks for having me, sir. Obviously, I'd love to help if I can help, and I'm by no means an expert, but I am pretty good at having a schedule and have had a lot of coaching over the years. So whatever I can pass along to any of the agents to help them do better, obviously, I would love to do that. When you asked me about doing this, I think most importantly, the one thing to remember is, try to keep it simple. Let's not try to overcomplicate it if at all possible. I would say the most important thing to start with before we start talking about prospecting and things of that nature is we need to have a schedule. And I feel like most of my colleagues, most of my friends in the business or mortgage or title, they don't seem to have a very good schedule. And without a good schedule, unfortunately, you just don't have a template for success. You don't have a game plan that's repeatable. And it makes it a lot harder to track numbers and what is creating the results that we want and what is creating results we don't want. So first things first, I would say is definitely sit down uninterrupted and create a very detailed schedule. And I would create this schedule from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. And the schedule needs to be 7 days a week, not just your work, but your personal life and everything else. And obviously, it's going to be important to include your family, if you have a family, your spouse, your girlfriend, your partner, whatever that may be, because it is going to be a team effort. And of course, if you say you're going to work 70 hours a week, but don't have the approval of your family, that is going to make it difficult. So definitely get a schedule set up. I like to have my schedule broken down into 15-minute increments. I grew up military, and so I grew up, as a child on a schedule. Things happen at the same time every day, consistently, whether you felt good, whether you were sick, whether it was raining, whether, it was a good snow day. We always followed a specific schedule. And ended the night a certain way so that you were ready to go, boots on the ground first thing the next morning. In the schedule, we have to look at what your goals are, and we'll get to goals in a second, but really ask yourself what is important to you. I know a lot of agents, related industries, for example, like to take their daily lunch. Most of my friends go on a 45-minute to an hour and 15-minute lunch every day. Just as a thought, if you can cut that hour lunch out by the end of the year, and let's just say you take 15 minutes for lunch or 20 minutes for lunch, because you only have so many billable hours, of course, in every single day, or business hours that you can be doing business and generating income. Yet you're going to end up with about an extra 28 to 30 days at the end of the year. And that's just from eliminating a 1 hour lunch every single day. Now that lunch may be really important to you. So you know what, maybe you say, okay, I'm going to do lunch Wednesdays and Fridays, but I'm going to cut them out the other days. So again, just some things you can think of that will really increase your productivity during the day. And most of all, your income. I think that's what we all want, is more income. Once we have the schedule in place, obviously feel free to send it to Daryl. He can send it to me, and we don't have to have names on it or anything like that. I'm happy to look at it and tweak it and or make suggestions as to what I think may work better. And again, not that I'm the expert in it, but I've looked at a lot of schedules. I've had a lot of people tweak my schedule over the years. And so I can definitely make some recommendations on that. And I'm happy to do that for you, whether you give it to me personally or do it privately through Daryl. So once we have the schedule in place, now number two, I would say we need to start tracking numbers. What you're doing every day, whether it's prospecting, contacts, which contacts, whether it's sphere of influence, expireds, canceled, if you're buying leads or whatever it may be, we need to track what's creating the appointments, and what is generating the listings and or the buyer leads and or the sales. I find a lot of times we start talking to agents about, well, where are you making all your money? And most of them don't know. They say, well, I think it's from this, or I think it's from that. But unfortunately, if we don't track those numbers, we end up running into a dilemma of, well, where should we focus the majority of our time? Or if you only have an hour on a particular day, you need to know where best to spend that hour to generate income for you. So schedule number one. Number two, once you have the schedule, it makes it really easy to track those numbers. And again, keep them in one place. I'm old fashioned. I like to use a notebook. So I have a notebook that goes back years that has how many people I've spoken to, how many appointments, how many, more importantly, how many I didn't get, to be honest with you, because I always want to look at, what do I need to improve and how much more income can I make if I can save or capture one or two of those extra deals a month that I lost or didn't put the effort into to get. Once you have schedule and we're starting to track those numbers, now we need to reevaluate the goals. And your schedule, what you're willing to put into your schedule really will allow you to, determine your goals. And those are kind of hand in hand. I mean, I have people that say, well, I want to make X amount of money a year. And I say, great. What are you willing to put into it? Not very much. For example, you might have a friend that says, oh, I want to get into really, really good shape, but I'm only willing to put 30 minutes of training into it a week. Well, you're not going to get great results from that, unfortunately. So once we have goals in place, and you probably already have goals for this year, it's already the end of the year. So you should be starting to work on next year's goals. And please keep in mind, in a declining market, the market doesn't determine what we make, of course. I know we've all heard this, but the market will determine what we have to do to make what we want to make, of course. So that's where having the schedule and tracking numbers is important, because now we have a mathematical formula to figure out what we need to do every single day, right? Every single hour, every single minute of that day to create the numbers and the income that we want. As I said, just with the schedule, the goals are going to need to include your family and spouse. Without that, you're just going to get a lot of resistance and have a lot of problems. So make sure you sit down with them. I'm going to use the example of a triathlon, and I know I've used it before, but if you've ever watched a triathlon, and in St. George, let's see, Friday, Saturday, we've got the Ironman in town. If you go watch the swim event, the first event, you'll see everybody jump into the water, and it's a mess. I mean, it's elbows, it's knees, it's people getting kicked. It's not uncommon to see people coming out with bloody noses and black eyes. And towards the middle of the swim, you'll notice everybody is clustered together, with the exception of a few out front and a few straggling behind. So I find with most agents and most people in all sales industries is you get stuck in the middle. And that makes it really difficult. It's actually, I feel like, a lot harder to make a good income there. And it's a lot more stressful because you're competing with everybody else. You haven't separated yourself from the competition. So you can either drop behind and or quit, or find a way to get ahead of the competition, and you're into smooth water. In essence, you're not jumping and fighting all over people all day, every day. So if you have time, Google triathlon starts and you'll see what a mess it is. And that's a great analogy or example, I think, for what happens in our industry, where people just get clumped together and don't do anything to separate themselves from the competition and everybody else. And we're lucky at Remax. I mean, when I look at our agent roster, I mean, we've got a lot of great professionals, high producing agents. I mean, we all want to do more, of course. If you don't, it's probably time to retire. But in terms of the goals, as you're discussing with your spouse, obviously we're going to have our yearly goal, a 3-year plan, maybe a little longer depending on your age. but definitely break it down and be specific, right? Then let's have a quarterly plan. Let's have a monthly plan. Let's have a 14-day plan, a 7-day plan, a daily plan, and then an hourly plan. And I say that because if you don't have any accountability throughout the day, if, for example, you only have a daily goal and a weekly goal, and you're trying to reach your yearly goal, you may find yourself standing at the coffee pot for an hour when you should have been prospecting, and that's going to prevent you from accomplishing those goals. So I would really be specific in breaking that down to the hour of this is what I'm doing at this time. With prospecting and price reductions, which are a thing again, I would put that on a hard schedule. And, that's something that is a non-negotiable. That's what you're doing that day at every single time. Obviously, pricing properties, we know these days, is not a one-time event. It's a 2, 3, 4-time event sometimes, depending on the price range and the location of the property. So, number one, schedule. Number two, track numbers. Number three, which again coincides with the schedule in number one, but we need to have those goals. And I think this is where your broker, whether it's Daryl, or if you want to have me look at it, there are some other great veteran agents in the office that would be very helpful in talking to you about this, as well as, your schedule and goals have to coincide with each other. They there has to be some accountability there. You can't expect to get a massive income with a horrible schedule. So again, I'm happy to sit down and go through all these. I know most people probably wanted to hear more specifically about, well, what did I do with prospecting when I went up to Union Park? Who was I calling? What was I doing? And we will get to that in the next call. But more importantly, when I came up, or when I reevaluate my numbers, is I start with a schedule every single time so that I'm doing something productive every single day. And that's the big difference. Is I didn't come up here and waste time, and I didn't come up here and organize my office or decorate my office. I came in and there were still boxes in place, and 4 or 5 desks turned upside down, and I just cleaned one off and set a computer down and got after it and followed my normal schedule. So obviously we want to see everybody be as successful as they can within the company. And obviously I'd love to hear what a lot of you have to say, because I have a lot that I can learn from many of you. But hopefully this helps. Let's those of you that are interested in doing this or tweaking this, let me know. Get the information over to Daryl or myself. Let's look at it. And then from there, we'll move on and we'll do the next step. And there'll be about 3 steps in this whole process to answer all of Daryl's questions about, what steps we're taking to gain more business. But, let's be honest, if we don't have the schedule and the accountability in place, then there's no point in going any farther. So sound good, Daryl?
Fantastic, buddy. I appreciate you spending the time. In fact, guys, I have to tell you, Ryan is sitting in a storage closet in Union Park. Literally, there are boxes everywhere. It's a mess, and yet he just sat down and went to work. So that's great. Just in quick review again: schedule, track your numbers, set goals, and then the fourth one you didn't mention, which is actually have a plan: quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly plan, and create a hard schedule around that plan. And then your generous offer to actually critique some of the schedules. If you guys will send those schedules in to me directly or to Ryan directly, either way, one-on-one, confidential, and we'll see if we can give you some pointers one-on-one individually. So again, Ryan, thanks for sharing your time. I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward
And I think one last key point for everybody, again, just to remember is keep doing what you're doing, right? Don't completely stop what you're doing. Imperfect action always pays better than perfect inaction, right? So if you don't know what to do something, right? Be talking to people, be doing something while we start tweaking this. But sitting in the office doing nothing or not coming to the office is of course the worst thing that you can do. So don't stop what you're doing, and we'll look forward to getting your information and seeing what we can do to help you out.
Great. I don't know if you can hear me, but my sound just went off. Hopefully it's coming back on here in a
Yep,
second.
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Ryan, again, thanks for being here with us. I'm looking forward to making this the Ryan Kramer show, just so you know. I haven't told you that yet. But looking forward to the next call so we can get a little bit more detail. Guys, get started. We're coming up fast on 2023. You need to get yourself organized. The first quarter of 2023 is already underway. So, Ryan, thanks for being here, and I'm looking
Thank you,
forward to the
sir.
next call. All right. Talk to you
Absolutely.
soon.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye bye.